All right, welcome to episode 1 of our Sheepgate Q&A, and we're dealing with a very important question today. And the question comes in and is written as such. So I'll read the question and then I'll get to in this kind of platform. I can't answer the question, of course, as in depth as I'd like to, but I'll try to answer the question as clearly and as concisely as I possibly can. So the question comes in and it reads: a close family friend is in a homosexual relationship. Our family friend group expects them to get married shortly. Should I attend the wedding? Our group has had tough conversations about this and got nowhere. First of all, thank you for the question. And secondly, I can imagine it being an absolute torment to try and get this question answered in a way, because we know the answer to the question. And we wrestle with the question like this because we know that there is tension between attending a homosexual union, if you can call it that, and of course, I think what is competing within the heart of this person asking this question is honoring God and observing marriage union and that entire institution of marriage in light of scripture and its definition, and that competing with, of course, our love and respect for a friend of ours, a close family friend who is in a homosexual relationship. Okay, I'm going to answer this question and then I'll get to the whys. Dear brother or sister, I personally would not attend this wedding. I personally wouldn't attend this wedding for a multitude of reasons, but at the very end, I'll try to explain why someone might, and we shouldn't jump to maybe conclusions as to a Christian who does attend a homosexual wedding. We might not want to jump to judge, like a judgmental attitude towards them, and we'll get to that. Just some asterisks, if you will. We'll get to those asterisks at the end. But my initial answer to you is I would not personally attend a homosexual marriage. The reason why is because what's competing within our hearts: honor of God and honor of something He has instituted and defined for us clearly in scriptures. Marriage being a union between one man, and one woman starting a family. So, what is a homosexual marriage? Well, it's a defiance against God's will and God's design for what marriage is. And so I wouldn't go against that. I wouldn't attend because I wouldn't agree with what is actually partaking, right? I wouldn't go to a baptism of a non-believer, for example. And of course, these are not perfect, comparisons. They're slightly apples and oranges, but you sort of understand where I'm getting at here, right? If a friend of mine, cheated all throughout university and, maybe even got into med school and cheated on all of their med tests and medical examinations and became a doctor, and during the ceremony where, they get their diploma or their degree, would I attend that? I think I'd be really uncomfortable attending that because I know how they attained such thing. Now, that's not to say that cheating is comparable to a homosexual relationship, of course. But what I'm comparing here is the competition that exists within and the tension that exists within my mind and my heart. And that is, I know there's something wrong here. And my attendance to the ceremony that celebrates this would be to publicly declare almost an acceptance and I guess my attendance would basically say, I don't have a problem with this, right? And so publicly, I wouldn't want to portray that. I wouldn't want to state that. And secondly, I certainly would not want to dishonor God's definition of what a marriage really is. And so I wouldn't attend the wedding because God has defined what marriage is, a union between men and women. I wouldn't attend a homosexual marriage or wedding because I don't think it's a wedding, right? I just don't think it is what it claims to be. So I would be in disagreement with that. And thirdly, and this is sort of where it becomes difficult. Yes, I want to celebrate with my friend. This is a person I don't want to disconnect with. I don't want to offend them. and I don't want there to be tension between me and this person. I certainly don't want the bridge between us to be broken where I can preach the gospel into this person's life. However, and this is where I think the asterisk comes in, someone might come to me and say, well, is it better for me to attend this wedding in hopes that I can share the gospel in the future because I don't want to, break any bridges? And is it possible that attending this wedding actually gives me a greater platform to preach the gospel into this person? And what I would say is that's a very dangerous slope, and I wouldn't go there. And what I would say is no, I don't think so. I think not attending this wedding is actually perhaps the most powerful message you can send about the gospel and how much you believe in it and how much you understand or how much you honor God with that level of understanding. And so I think it's very, very, very dangerous for us to say, well, if I do A, B, or C, I think it's going to make it more difficult for me to preach the gospel in this person's life. And so I'm going to avoid conflict, I'm going to avoid tension, and I'm going to avoid uncomfortable conversations in hopes that maintaining a good relationship will allow me to share the gospel with them. This is, I don't think, one of those cases. I think ultimately in Scripture we find from beginning to end that we are to honor God and we are to worship and glorify Him as primary. That's primary, right? First and foremost, love God with all your heart, soul, and strength, and then love your neighbor as yourself, right? And so those are really not competing concepts. Those are not competing ideas. They're not in competition because God is the priority. God is number one. That's not to say that your family friend is to be ignored and that you should do this out of a spiting, hateful heart. I think, if anything, a conversation can be had with this friend of yours, explaining your convictions, explaining your heart, and explaining why you wouldn't attend. Right? It's not to say I hate you and you're a sinful person that I cannot be part. Like that's obviously not where we want to go. I think it's more important that we come to this person, we say, hey, you know what, like these are my convictions, this is where I'm at, and this is why I can't attend your wedding. And I think that's what I would do, right? At the end of the day, I don't know if that helps you, but personally, like if it's just a black yes or no question, I wouldn't attend the wedding, but I would go as far to create an opportunity, as I do think this is, for you to share your convictions in your faith and what you know and love about God with this person, and help them understand that it's not just hatred that I'm spewing into your life, or by not being there I'm just demonstrating how much I hate you. No, that's really, I don't think that would come across if we are if we're true to what we believe and we share out of a heart that is truly grieving for this person, right? And so I think that's the answer that I would give you. And I don't think you should compromise on this. That's my personal conviction on this, and I hope that has helped, and I hope that maybe this helps your group navigate these tough conversations. Now, in the end, if you do, choose to attend, and if some of your friends choose to attend, let's not be judgmental about it. But let's have a clear conscience on our as we come before God, right? If God is before you and He was asking, or you were asking Him directly, should I attend this wedding? What do you really think He would say? Knowing what God says in His own Word about marriage and about homosexuality. So I hope that helps, and I hope that you're able to come to a wise decision. And God bless you. Thank you for your question. Look forward to next week when we answer the next question. Thank you, brothers and sisters.